and the last day of the allotted term arrived. No change was manifest in Isole's demeanour. Neither remorse nor fear were exhibited by her. Never had she appeared more lovely, nor had more exuberant spirits. She besought her lover, who was still madly intoxicated by her infernal charms, to give a banquet that night to 10 of his trustiest followers. He willingly assented, and bade them to the feast. They ate and drank merrily, and the gayest of the company was the lovely Isole. Her spirits seemed somewhat too wild even to Blackburn, but he did not check her, though surprised at the excessive liveliness and freedom of her sallies. Her eyes flashed like fire, and there was not a man present but was madly in love with her, and ready to dispute for her smiles with his captain. The wine flowed freely, and song and jest went on till midnight. When the hour struck, Isole filled a cup to the brim, and called upon them to pledge her. All arose, and drained their goblets enthusiastically. "It was a farewell cup," she said. "I am going away with one of you." "How!" exclaimed Blackburn, in angry surprise. "Let any one but touch your hand, and I will strike him dead at my feet." The rest of the company regarded each other with surprise, and it was then discovered that a stranger was among them. A tall, dark man, whose looks were so terrible and demoniacal that no one dared lay hands upon him. "I am come," he said, with fearful significance, "to Isole." "And I am ready," she answered, boldly. "I will go with you, were it to the bottomless pit," cried Blackburn, catching hold of her. "It is thither I am going," she answered, with a scream of laughter. "I shall be glad of a companion." When the paroxysm of laughter was over, she fell down on the floor. Her lover would have raised her, when what was his horror to find that he held in his arms an old woman, with frightfully disfigured features, and evidently in the agonies of death. She fixed one look upon him and expired. Terrified by the occurrence, the guests hurried away, and when they returned next day, they found Blackburn stretched on the floor and quite dead. They cast his body, together with that of the wretched Isole, into the vault beneath the room where they were lying, and then, taking possession of his treasure, removed to some other retreat. Thenceforth Malkin Tower became haunted. Though wholly deserted, lights were constantly seen shining from it at night, and sounds of wild revelry, succeeded by shrieks and groans, issued from it. The figure of Isole was often seen to come forth and flit across the west in the direction of Whalley Abbey. On stormy nights, a huge black cat with flaming eyes was frequently descried on the summit of the structure, whence it obtained the name of Grimalkin, or Malkin Tower. The ill omened pile ultimately came into the possession of the Nutter family, but it was never tenanted until assigned, as I have already mentioned, to Mother Demdike. The surgeon's marvellous story was listened to with great attention by his auditors. Most of them were familiar with different versions of it, but to Master Potts it was altogether new, and he made rapid notes of it, questioning the narrator as to one or two points which appeared to him to require explanation. Nicholas, as may be supposed, was particularly interested in that part of the legend which referred to Isole de Heton. He now, for the first time, heard of her unhallowed intercourse with the freebooter Blackburn, of her compact on Whalley Nab with the Fiend, of her mysterious connection with Malkin Tower, and of her being the ancestress of Mother Demdike. The consideration of all these points, coupled with a vivid recollection of his own strange adventure with the impious votaress at the Abbey on the previous night, plunged him into a deep train of thought, and he began seriously to consider whether he might not have committed some heinous sin, and indeed jeopardised his soul's welfare by dancing with her. "What if I should share the same fate as the robber Blackburn," he ruminated, "and be dragged to perdition by her? It is a very awful reflection. But though my fate might operate as a warning to others, I am by no means anxious to be held up as a moral scarecrow. Rather let me take warning myself, amend my life, abandon intemperance, which leads to all manner of wickedness, and suffer myself no more to be ensnared by the wiles and delusions of the tempter in the form of a fair woman. No, no, I will alter and amend my life." I regret to say, however, that these praiseworthy resolutions were but transient, and that the squire, quite forgetting that the work of reform, if intended to be really accomplished, ought to commence at once, and by no means be postponed till the morrow, yielded to the seductions of a fresh pottle of sack, which was presented to him at the moment by Bess, and in taking it could not help squeezing the hand of the bouncing hostess, and gazing at her more tenderly than became a married man. "Oh, Nicholas, Nicholas, the work of reform, I am afraid, proceeds very slowly and imperfectly with you. Your friend Parson Dewhurst would have told you that it is much easier to form good resolutions than to keep them." Leaving the squire, however, to his cogitations and his sack, the attorney to his memorandum book, in which he was still engaged in writing, and the others to their talk, we shall proceed to the chamber where the poor miller had been led by Bess. When visited by the rector, he had been apparently soothed by the worthy man's consolatory advice, but when left alone, he speedily relapsed into his former dark and gloomy state of mind. He did not notice Bess, who, according to Holden's directions, placed the aqua vitae bottle before him, but as long as she stayed, remained with his face buried in his hands. As soon as she was gone, he arose and began to pace the room to and fro. The window was open, and he could hear the funeral bell tolling mournfully at intervals. Each recurrence of the dismal sound added sharpness and intensity to his grief. His sufferings became almost intolerable, and drove him to the very verge of despair and madness. If a weapon had been at hand, he might have seized it and put a sudden period to his existence. His breast was a chaos of fierce and troubled thoughts, in which one black and terrible idea arose and overpowered all the rest. It was the desire of vengeance, deep and complete, upon her whom he looked upon as the murderess of his child. He cared not how it were accomplished, so it were done, but such was the opinion he entertained of the old hag's power, that he doubted his ability to the task. Still, as the bell tolled on, the furies at his heart lashed and goaded him on, and yelled in his ear, "Revenge! Revenge!" Now, indeed, he was crazed with grief and rage. He tore off handfuls of hair, plunged his nails deeply into his breast, and committed these and other wild excesses. With frantic imprecations, he called down Heaven's judgment on his own head. He was in that lost and helpless state when the enemy of mankind has power over man. Nor was the opportunity neglected, for when the wretched Baldwyn, who, exhausted by the violence of his emotions, had leaned for a moment against the wall, he perceived, to his surprise, that there was a man in the room, a small personage, attired in rusty black, whom he thought had been one of the party in the adjoining chamber. There was an expression of mockery about this person's countenance which did not please the miller, and he asked him sternly what he wanted. "Leave off grinning, mon, or I may be tempted to take you by the throttle, and make you laugh on the wrong side of your mouth." "No, you will not, Richard Baldwyn, when you know my errand," replied the man. "You are thirsting for vengeance upon Mother Demdike. You shall have it." "Ay, ay, you promised me vengeance afore," cried the miller. "Vengeance by the law. But I mun wait long for it. I would have it swift and sure, deep and deadly. I would blast her with curses, as I blasted my poor Mary. I would strike her dead at my feet. That's my vengeance, man." "You shall have it," replied the other. "You talk differently from what you did just now, mon," said the miller, regarding him narrowly and distrustfully. "And you look differently, too. There's a queer glimmer about your eye that I didna notice before, and that I mislike." The man laughed bitterly. "Leave off grinning, or begone," said Baldwyn, furiously, and he raised his hand to strike the man, but he instantly dropped it, appalled by a look which the other threw at him. "Who the devil are you?" "The devil must answer you, since you appeal to him," replied the other, with the same mocking smile. "But you are mistaken in supposing that you have spoken to me before. He with whom you conversed in the other room resembles me in more respects than one, but he does not possess power equal to mine. The law will not aid you.